Have you ever been guilty of judging God by your standards? Hi, I'm Bob Wilkin with Grace Evangelical Society, and I have some good news for you today. I've been in the ministry nearly 50 years next year. And I've heard many people, lay people, pastors, theologians, lots of people in the ministry, make statements where they indicate that they consider something to be unjust, therefore God would never do that. They would say, well, God could never do X because that would be unjust. For example, a friend of mine said to me that he felt it would be unfair for God to condemn anyone to eternal torment who never heard about Jesus. So in his view, since God is just, therefore anyone who's never heard will automatically be given everlasting life posthumously. I have another friend that had told me at one point that he did not believe that God would condemn anyone to eternal conscious torment. He's a pastor and a Christian leader, an author, and he holds to annihilationism, that God will annihilate or destroy anyone he casts into the lake of fire. When I was at the Evangelical Theological Society meetings about 20 years ago, a meeting of leading Bible scholars from mainly the U.S. and Canada, I heard a leading author and seminary professor present a paper in which he said he considered it unjust if there were to be degrees of reward in the kingdom. Therefore, his conclusion was there will be no rewards in the kingdom. I've spoken at the Urban Alternative annual conference on a number of occasions, and one year when I was teaching, I happened to mention that God has established that the leaders in the local church, the elders in local churches, were to be men only. And a woman in the crowd was offended by that. And she said, well, that's your opinion, right? And I said, yes, that's my view. And she said, because I'm a pastor and I know this is right. I remember one year I had gone to a Christian conference in Phoenix, and I was in the airport getting ready to come back, talking with a pastor who had also been at the conference, and we were talking about eternal security, once saved, always saved. And a couple of women engaged us and said that wouldn't be fair. God can't give everlasting life to people who don't live for Him. I remember the one woman said, God can't let bad people into heaven, and that's a common view today as people judge God based on their standards. As I've evangelized people, I've had many people who have objected to the idea that Jesus is the only way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. Many people I've talked to object to that because they believe that would be unfair. And since God is not unjust, therefore that can't be true. It's important that we recognize that God judges us. We don't judge Him. Every believer is going to be judged at the judgment seat of Christ, also called the Bema, to determine our degrees of reward in the kingdom. And every unbeliever will be judged after the millennium at the great white throne judgment to determine their degrees of torment in the lake of fire. While everlasting life is a free gift, eternal rewards or eternal torment are earned for work done. You know, God tells us what is right in His Word. He tells us what is just, and that settles the matter. I used to see signs in churches in Arkansas when I was on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ, and they would say, God said it, I believe it, that settles it. I've simplified that. I think it's God said it, that settles it, whether I believe it or not. If you liked what you heard today, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel. And please keep grace in focus.